Hey, what's up guys? Kevin here from Canadian Card Pickers, and today I'm going to be doing a video highlighting the 10 most valuable cards that have sold for Metazoo. We're basically going to look, this can give a little bit of an idea of what collectors are looking for, what makes cards valuable in Metazoo right now as of December 31st, 2021, and just kind of give some insight to you if you're maybe new to Metazoo, so you can understand what people are looking for and really understand value in Metazoo compared to other products like Pokemon or what have you. So we're just going to jump right into this. If you haven't heard of Metazoo, Metazoo is a trading card game that has been recently released. Very similar to Pokemon in aesthetic, but takes influence from things like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic when it comes to aesthetic as well. So it's kind of a bit of a conglomeration of that. The reason it's called Metazoo, a lot of its stuff is based off of cryptids. Cryptids are things like the Sasquatch or Chupacabra or Mothman, you know, these creatures that we don't know if they exist or not. They're cryptic. So yeah, let's jump in. So coming in at number 10 is Mothman, first edition Kickstarter. For those that don't know, Mothman is kind of like Metazoo's Charizard. So it's always going to be kind of more valuable than some of the other ones just because it is the titular character of the whole set. This one is from Cryptid Nation. That is their base set. But this is actually the Kickstarter version. So if you backed their Kickstarter when they launched that, you would get a booster box that was exclusive to backers, and you had a chance to get this Mothman in it. This one sold at $6,800, a little bit more than that Canadian. So about like $4,200 US, give or take. This one is also PSA 10, which is kind of hard to get specifically for this card. It's hard enough already to get a PSA 10, some of the hardest graders out there. But in addition, they have like kind of an imperfection that comes on a lot of these, which are called hickeys. So they're little blemishes on the print. So this one got a PSA 10 because it had no hickeys. And this one is a reverse holo. So I believe full holos tend to be the most expensive. But in this case, a lot of people are trying to get what they can get just for long-term investment. So yeah, that's number 10. Again, $6,800 Canadian. And yeah, it's a Kickstarter. You can see there's an icon at the bottom right of the character image, and it's got a little K there. Might be a little hard to see it, but yeah, I'll try and highlight that in the edit if I remember. But yeah, that's how you can tell that it is a Kickstarter and not just a standard retail pack. Next up is the Grim Reaper. So this one is a sample card. The way that you can tell sample cards, some people also refer to them as black border cards or basement prints, because this came before they were really distributing to you know, resellers and the like. But this one is a full holo, so that means that the background, not the character, is foiled. This is graded 9.5. Bear in mind this is SGC, so some people don't like that as much as Beckett or PSA, but you're more likely to get a higher grade with SGC just because they aren't as intense and scrutinize as much as PSA and Beckett do. But this one sold for just under $7,500 Canadian at $74.16.75. Again, it's a sample card, so those are rare. I believe they only made 100 of each sample card. You know, it's got a good grade and it's a full holo. Theoretically, if you really wanted, you could try to get this graded by PSA or Beckett, but you're probably better off just keeping it with this 9.5 because you run the risk of getting something lower like a 9 or, you know, what have you from the others. So there's that one. Again, it's a first edition sample, so it is quite rare, hard to get. Next up, similar to the Grim Reaper, is a Jersey Devil first edition sample card. This one is also full holo, graded 9.5 by SGC. And this one is at $7,608.56 Canadian. In USD, you just kind of look at it like $4,500, $5,000, something like that. If you want, you can just go to Google and check the conversion. But Jersey Devil isn't quite as titular as Mothman, but it is a very well-known cryptid, similar to Bigfoot or Chupacabra, things like that. So there's a lot of value there. It's steeped in a lot of lore and paranormal stuff. So very cool card, looks neat. So that is coming in at number 8. Next up, we have the Wendigo. This is a sample first edition card, as well as being full holo. It is graded PSA 9, so you could say that's comparable to the SGC 9.5. 9's still a great grade, but if this was a PSA 10, you'd be able to probably double the price, give or take. There's a big difference between 10 and 9, even in sports cards and Pokemon. So definitely keep that in mind when you're getting graded. This one sold for $8,311.87, around there. It was a buy it now, so someone paid a little less than that, but that was the asking price, so it's around there, you could say. And yeah, full holo Wendigo, very cool. I pulled a full holo of this, but it's just a first edition card. It is not a sample card. It's got the red border, but it's just such a cool card. The Wendigo is very interesting. You know, if you're a Supernatural fan, it's one of the early monsters they encounter in there, as well as I think there's a video game dedicated to hunting the Wendigo or something like that. But yeah, very cool card, very, very fun. Righteous Reckoning as well features the Wendigo on its image, so that's a card to look out in Nightfall as well. Coming at number 6 is Indrid Cold. Very Giovanni vibes from this particular character. But this one is a full holo. It again is a sampler first edition, but this one is graded PSA 10. Very hard to get, so it's definitely a higher value. I'm sure there's a lot of Metazoo getting sent to PSA, and it's just going to take a little while for people to get those back. PSA, of course, is going to be backlogged to know tomorrow. But this one sold for just under $11,000, coming in at $10,933 or $10,933.31 Canadian. Again, full holo. It is a sample card, so it is very scarce. It's built into the print run of it. It's kind of like short prints in a way, but not quite, just because you can't find this in retail stuff anymore. But yeah, like I said, very Giovanni in the look of this guy, and very fun little card. But yeah, very hard to find yourself a PSA 10 of a sample card, so worth hunting for those if you're a big collector. Next up, we're getting into the top half now. We have Red Ink. So Red Ink is a very special card. It is a secret rare, similar to what you would see in Pokemon, for instance, or even short prints, or like, you know, ultra short prints in sports cards. But this one is a box topper, and only 100 were made. This is in recognition of their artists, so that's why it's called Red Ink. It's, I think, based on kind of the ink they used to sign or something like that. But this is a first edition card. It's got the red border, so theoretically you could pull this. I believe this would come from the base Cryptid Nation booster boxes. I don't think you would find this in Nightfall, but it's a very cool card. It's full holo. This particular one that sold was PSA 9, you know, so it's not quite a 10, worth much more if it's a 10, but it sold for $12,915.37. Only 100 of them were made, so it's hard to find them. Very unlikely that you'll pull it from a box, but you never know, especially with so many people holding on to the wax for reselling down the road. So keep an eye out for this, for good deals. Even if you can find an ungraded one in good condition, you might be able to get it graded and, you know, get a few extra $1,000 added to the price if you were to sell it. So very cool. The next one is another Red Ink. This one actually sold for about the same. You can see this was $12,915. This one sold, it was a buy it now for $13,000, but someone bought it with a an offer, so it's probably a little less than the fifth one, but you know, I can only speculate at what the price actually was. But this one's an ungraded version. It's again full holo, only 100 of these made, the box topper, so I'm willing to bet it probably didn't sell for as much as this. I wouldn't be surprised if this one sold first and then someone went to this particular seller and said, hey, a graded version of this at 9 sold for 12.9, so like 13,000 is a bit of an ask where we don't know the actual grade of this. So I would say that this one's more likely in 4th, but because I can only go off the listed price, I put this in 4th just cuz. Next up, at number 3, this is a signed Collecticon version of Mothman. These are very specifically for Collecticon. So for those that don't know, Poncho is one of the artists that has drawn images like Mothman and the like. So only 50 of these were made. They are serialized, so you can see at the bottom right, the 20 out of 50 in this case is this one. It's signed by the artist, and this sold for, again, it was buy it now, so we can only speculate, but it was around $13,235.06 Canadian. So this is a, you know, an art piece. So it's, I'm not quite sure if it's considered a card or if it's its own little special art piece, kind of similar to like art cards in Magic the Gathering. If you've seen those, you know, they're not a card for play, so they're not part of the base pack, but they're also a kind of a special edition card in the set. But very cool. This one, it's not graded, but it's authenticated. So theoretically, you could probably try and get this graded, but you're better off holding it in the condition it is. This is probably considered PSA 10 because it's like fresh, you know, made and put into the slab. Who knows? But again, around $13,235.06. Mothman, again, being the titular character of the set, like Charizard to Pokemon, always going to bring a few extra bucks. Next up, again, Mothman. This is a Kickstarter version, full holo and graded. This one is graded at PSA 10, very hard to get. It is part of the Kickstarter, like I mentioned, of the Cryptid Nation initial set, so they also consider it a Kickstarter first edition. But very high demand for this card. $13,874.43 is what this sold for. It'd be hard pressed to find PSA 10s just because of potential hickeying issues, blemishes, and what have you. Especially it's a, you know, it's a new company, but hopefully their quality control is really good because they want to set a tone. They're very collector focused, whereas something like Pokemon, when it first started, collectors weren't thinking too much of it. You know, you didn't have the internet like we do now. People weren't speculating as much. You know, we've got a lot more meta when it comes to card collecting these days and people min-maxing that. So, you know, it's definitely, it's awesome. But the thing is, you have to keep in mind that because people are so collector focused these days, and because this kind of is being targeted towards collectors a bit more than, say, children, you know, it's kind of going to go to the reverse way. It's going to be kids are going to get into this after collectors instead of the other way around. There's a lot of PSA 10s. If you go and look at PSA and look at 10s for Mothman, whether this one or just the, you know, standard base set and what have you, there's a lot more because so many people are opening these and immediately slabbing them, putting them into, you know, one touches and sending that off to PSA to get graded. So there's more PSA 10s than PSA 9s of some of these cards. So take that as you will. You know, you're not going to see as much return as you would with something that collectors are a little late to get into. So it's, you know, harder to find those initial cards. Think about baseball cards, right? All those Mickey Mantles and what have you. Kids didn't take care of their cards. It was about just trading them and having fun. It wasn't about, let's keep this in the best condition forever so I can, you know, flip this 20 years down the road for, you know, 10K more than I bought it for. No, they were just like, oh, cool, I got a Mickey Mantle. That's awesome. They didn't sleeve it. They just threw it in their back pocket and went home after opening the pack kind of thing. So the different thing is happening here. A lot more collectors from the start. So you're going to see scarcity when it comes to graded cards is going to have a bigger impact, a lack of scarcity, I should say. So just giving that in as a caveat if you want to get into this, because it will impact long-term growth, because only more and more PSA 10s are going to show up. So if you're looking to get stuff, it's definitely worth checking out for things that have built-in scarcity. For instance, you know, red ink or sample cards where there's only 100 of those made. Harder to find them, spending a lot more, but more likely to go up in price because there's not as much speculation, or there's not as many graded versions, what have you. And finally, coming in at number 1 of the most expensive cards for Metazoo as of today, December 31st, is Mothman. Again, this is a Mothman sample card. This one in the image is ungraded, but there's only 100 of these printed, you know, like I said, with samples or, you know, basement prints or black borders. Again, ungraded. It is a full holo. That means the background, not the character, is foil. Another one of these also sold for 20.5K. I don't know if it has to do with hickeying or what have you, but if you were to get this graded at PSA 10, it would be, you know, fairly valuable, especially because of, you know, a higher chance of having blemishes and the like. So Mothman, again, is the titular character. It is their Charizard. It's always going to be a top card in most sets, unless people decide no. But yeah, it's a very cool card. Mothman is such a weird cryptid, just because it's, you know, it's not like you have video recordings as much as you have, say, Bigfoot or what have you, and people hoaxing that. Mothman's a lot harder to do stuff like that because it flies. I think there's some stuff out there, but it's a little more legend and myth and folklore compared to, say, Bigfoot, where some people are like, I don't know, like, the forests are big, you know, especially in Pacific Northwest. Some of that stuff, there's no way you could fully swipe through it. So yeah, but Mothman is fun. I think it's cool that they put instead of Bigfoot or the Yeti, they decided Mothman to kind of be their go-to. It's just, it looks cool. It's got a very Pokemon vibe to it. It looks neat. I like it. Not sure what your guys' thoughts are, but there you have it. That is the top 10 most expensive cards sold on eBay, at least as of December 31st, 2021. I'll try and get this out the day of if I can. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Fun little perusal of what's out there. Let me know what have you pulled from Metazoo so far. I got pretty lucky with some Nightfall that you guys will see down the road. I got a booster box, some good stuff in there. I'm very excited. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think some of these cards are overpriced, especially for how many people are actually like holding on to these, that kind of thing? Let me know what you think. Hopefully this was helpful too. If you guys want to see anything else as far as Metazoo, let me know. I can provide some kind of like quick tip videos or something like that, especially as I'm learning about the entire series. It's neat. They're planning like 20 years worth of content. I think some of that is even getting an animated show, so there's definitely some upward growth. Steve Aoki is also a partner in doing this. I think he's part of the creative marketing team or something like that. But yeah, very excited, very fun to open these. They're very neat. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. It always helps support the channel's growth. Feel free to like the video as well, so more people will, you know, have this suggested to them. And if you like the content and you want to see more of it, you can also join and become a member. You know, there's only one tier. It's very inexpensive, but it goes towards helping me continue to put out content and do cool videos for you guys. Totally optional, but always appreciated. Anyways, have yourself a great rest of your day, your night, or your morning, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.